Hi, I'm Abel.
Hello, I'm Sharon.
Today we are here to just touch on a very common topic that actually a lot of our friends and the people around us who are non-agents, they have always been asking this thing and asking us, buy new launch, sure make money ah?
Yeah, this is the question that we get a lot. So the question is it true? And why so? I'm sure we have people around us, friends, relatives, all buy new launches. But why some make more, some make less, and worst case, some even lose money? And why is it so? Let's look at some slides to help us understand better. We would like to share about this developer three-phase pricing. In general, developers have a three-phase of pricing. From the day that they launch a condo to TOP. In general, there are these three phases that we can see a trend in all the new launches. So what is this three-phase pricing? Let's take a look at this project, Treasure at Tampines. During the launch, phase 1 to phase 2 and up to the phase 3, right, there is an average PSF difference of 247. So why at this phase 3, at the highest point of PSF, right, people still buy?
No, who will buy?
Okay,
you will buy?
There will still be buyers, Abel, okay? Like we see some projects why they sell out. Because remember I was sharing, phase 3 pricing usually is where it's key collection already. Buyers actually get their keys. So imagine your buyer at phase 3. The wait is shorter. So for people who needs the house urgently, they want a shorter wait, they pay a higher price lah, because generally shorter wait ma.
Because I think sometimes they also have no choice. They have to sell their place and immediately move into the next without any interim period.
So they can straight away move in, after they sell their place, then they move in immediately. That's why at every stage of the price point, right, there will be buyers. So this is one example that we can see from Treasure at Tampines, the three-phase pricing.
So generally from this phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, the pricing developer usually gradually brings it up all the way to its sort of most attractive because it is brand new, but still the waiting time is very short.
But then, of course, this is not just a one-off example. Let's take a look at another project, which is another very interesting project. Why I say this is interesting? Because, Abel, I think you should be very familiar with this project, right? Florence Residences. I think you bought a unit here?
Yes, correct. This was actually my first home with my wife.
So from this also we can see a three-phase pricing by the developer. So which phase did you buy?
Actually, I bought in phase 1.
Nice.
Yeah,
we can see here, right? Phase 1, the price point that you enter.
I think back then, if people are asking, wow, it looks like it's to the moon. And right now, if you see from phase 1 all the way to phase 3. But actually during phase 1, the buyers who actually entered, they enjoyed this, I would say, almost break-even price from the developer's side. It's also because at that point of time, right, in the market, back then in 2019, just on this area itself, Florence Residence is at the Hougang Kovan area. So at that point of time, the supply was more than the demand. There were still 2 other big projects also in the same area that has still quite a number of units left unsold. So I think buyers have a lot of options, a lot of choices. And also I think back then the interest rate was still pretty high as compared to COVID.
Yeah.
So a lot of buyers probably were waiting on the fence.
Sitting on the fence.
Lastly, also, if you see why the developer launched at a probably much lower price, is because on day 1 itself, the project is a huge project. They had 1,410 units, but only 54 units sold.
Sweat.
So if you are a developer at that point of time, would you be more confident in your prices and raise them up, or maybe try to put it at a very attractive price to maybe just clear more units before thinking about increasing?
Yeah, more conscious for a start lah.
Correct.
So that's another project that we can see three-phase pricing from launch date till the TOP date. And then here we have one very successful owner who bought in phase 1. So this is an example. So his neighbors who buy in at phase 2 or even in phase 3, what are the pricing like for these neighbors? Whether they are also profiting as much. Let's take a look. For comparison purposes, okay, we take 3-bedroom lah, Abel?
Correct. So actually from here you can actually see, we go back to a 3-bedroom here at the top, right here. So these 2 units, they are actually the same stack, which is on the exact same facing and all that, just that probably one is higher floor, one is lower floor. Right over here you can see in 2019, this was the launch period. On day 1, which is the phase 1 as well, this owner over here bought this 3-bedroom at very good pricing, 1,389. After which, fast forward about 3 years later, when the market start to settle, what we see are maybe a shorter waiting period like what we saw in the phase 3, where it's about to TOP soon. So you do not need to wait so long to collect keys and all that. This buyer, same thing, he bought first hand from developer, but at almost 300,000 more. And of course, we do mask out the level, but in fact, this unit that bought at 300,000 higher is a lower floor as compared to this unit over here.
So that's the difference, huh? The timing.
How like that?
Plays an important point.
Like lose out already.
Like that, how?
That was back then. So another 3-bedroom over here, same thing. He's a day one owner. He bought at 1.4 million.
Same stack, huh?
But it's entirely different from the previous two. He sold it as well in 2024.
Yeah,
And he
transacted.
sold it at 1.9. So of course the market does move. So if you ask me, does this owner over here lose out?
Still make lah.
Still make lah, but maybe not as much as this lah.
Yeah, but then
But still make lah.
But then you see, this is 2024, right, Abel? That was last year already. And I think you also did share that recently, another 3-bedroom, 2025,
Already transacting above 2 million
of 2
already.
million. Yeah. So generally, regardless for Florence itself, we can see that no matter which phase you bought into, you are still making profit. It's a matter of, like what we shared earlier, how much you make, more, less. So far, Florence Residences, there's no negative sales lah.
Nope, none at all yet. I'm following this very closely, like,
Of course,
especially
I'm
for this
sure you
project.
do. I'm sure. So we've already covered 2 examples. Maybe let's look at the next one.
Right now, I'm going to show you all actually this one, Affinity at Serangoon. This is also, I would say, about the same time, of course, a bit earlier launch than Florence, but in the same area, same vicinity. So right now, you're telling me that based on what we saw earlier, phase 1 confirm earn lah.
Does it mean?
Lowest price guaranteed lah.
No leh.
Okay, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper here now.
If you were to look at this example,
Correct. So this is Affinity at Serangoon. You can see that day 1 launch is around this pricing, which is almost 1,006 PSF.
1,006 PSF.
But immediately within the next few months, the pricing actually dropped a little to about 1,400 plus PSF. Oh, like that, Ashra?
Why is it like that? So actually, it's not as simple as 1, 2, 3 leh. That means doesn't mean buy in phase 1 sure make money, right?
Just to share a little bit lah. Because over here, the developers maybe not that lucky, I would say. Why is that so? Because a few months following their launch, you can see the dip that happened around September. It's because also during this period, government introduced cooling measures of the ABSD being raised from 7% to 12% for your second property, as well as the loan to value dropped from 80% to 75%, which actually I think it makes quite a difference on the buyer's end.
I see.
So of course it will start to slow the buyer's market and all that. So for this, the developer had no choice but probably to drop a little bit. Of course, eventually, following their sales over time, they slowly start to increase the prices again all the way to TOP.
I see. So we can still see a 3-phase price trend in this project.
Correct. But actually, this slide we're just going to show you is that generally the 3 phases, they still increase over time. It's just that sometimes due to certain factors that affect the market, such as some global issue or maybe government measures, that's why there will be some slight changes.
Adjustments in pricing lah. So developers have to actually act in accordance to all these factors.
Yeah, lor. So now we've seen most of these 3-phase types for the projects. All this happened over a few years, from day 1 all the way 3 years later to about TOP status.
During the building under construction period.
I'm curious, Sharon. Do you know the past few years, right? There are some projects one day almost nothing left, fully sold
One day
or
sold,
almost
alright.
fully sold
Selling like hotcakes, oh.
How about this? Then the few years time, how to get the 3 phases?
So let's take a look at such example, a condo. This is one interesting one. So this project, Pasir Ris 8, this developer actually display the 3-phase pricing, right, all in one day. In fact, in the short few hours, to show you all an example of a 3-bedroom, 1302 square feet. Pricing difference of 200K in the short few hours booking. This is the same stack, 36. This buyer bought at 1.871. High floor unit, he bought at 1.871. So if your neighbor of a lower floor unit, let's say a mid floor, what do you think will be the pricing? Should it be more or lower?
Same day, right?
Same day.
Should be lower lah.
By right, because lower floor let me share with you. This 2.91 neighbor, right, is actually of a lower floor leh. Same stack leh. So that's why there is a 200k pricing difference. 3-phase pricing all in one day.
Then, how? This buyer over here, this 2.091, lose straight away. First day, I lose out 200k.
Got lose out or not? If you were to look at the pricing, of course, he bought 200k higher lah. But if you were to say lose out, let's look at this example. Recently, Pasir Ris 8 TOP, they collected their keys. Okay, so this is some of the transactions that we can find. The 1302 square feet, there isn't any transactions yet, so we couldn't show you the price. But using a smaller 3-bedroom, 1055, 1066, they are already transacting above 2 million. These are the transaction price. In fact, 2.2 million. So do you think a bigger unit like the one we saw earlier, Stack 36?
2.091 million, right?
Yes.
But it's much bigger, right? 1,003.
Yeah, 1,003. So
Okay.
if your neighbor of a smaller unit, 1055, transacting 2.2 million, if your unit is 1302 square feet, do you think the chance of them selling at a higher price?
How much will you want to sell?
Yeah,
if you are the 1302 today?
If you are 1302, how much do you think you will be selling? You know, you look at your transactions and then your neighbor transacting at smaller size, transacting 2.2 million.
2.5 2.5. No, but anyway, I think definitely based on the much smaller unit already sold at 2.2, people are ready to accept this pricing at 2.2 million, right? I don't think that the one that bought 2.091 million, he should be losing out ma. He will still earn a few 100,000, right? Based on this recent data.
Yeah. It's just a matter of whether, you know, make more or less lah. Because the mid-floor neighbor transacted 2.091, the one of a higher floor in fact bought lower than him. So the one higher floor one likewise.
Yeah, the higher floor wholesale, the one that bought at 1.87.
Likely lah.
I want to be the 1.87 owner.
I also want. Everybody also want. But you must know when ma. When is the lowest pricing? When's the phase one ma? So this is one question that we also get a lot. Then like that, clients will ask, then like that, how do we know when to buy and what to buy, Abel?
Oh, I think this is also something that everybody has this thought in mind. Because everybody right now say, oh, maybe like we go back to our same topic, is it new launch sure earn ma?
Yeah.
But also what type? I think because everybody have their own needs, probably their own budget or timeline even to match. So we have to consider a lot of these factors, as well as at the point where you want to buy, are there any ongoing like maybe government measures?
Yeah. Timing is crucial. You know, what's happening in the market. Like, there's basically no one plan fits all for clients. We actually do very customized data research for buyers in general. At the same time, we will check out the market conditions, understand the government plan.
Market conditions,
Directions.
as well as the government directions are also
Right.
very important lah.
Yes.
So for this, I think since there's so many things to consider, please don't rush to buy when everyone is buying.
That's important.
Slowly, we have to run through all this analysis first before we actually put our money there, because I would say that property is the biggest, if not
Yeah.
one of the biggest purchases in our life lah. So we have to be
Hard-earned
very
money.
careful.
So feel free to reach out to us if you have these same questions or concerns. I'll be here to assist you.
We're more than willing to help you analyze your preferred projects or shortlisted ones, or even if really you're looking at resale in this case.
Yeah, right. Not just new launches. To the next video,
I'm Abel.
I'm Sharon.
And
See you.
See you.